without moving it because I'm lazy. All right, not so bad. Yeah, thanks for having me. As already stated, I work at UWL, so I've been an archivist there for a little bit now. I want to say, I think I'm going on over 14 years now. Not from Vernon County. I went to school in Homan. But I do have family from this area, and they'll be making an appearance in the program. Yeah, I went to school to be an archivist, and also got a degree in history. So been doing this thing for a while, and so hopefully I'll have some good stuff that you guys will find of interest. I will tell you right now, I definitely have too many slides, so I'll try to keep it moving, so I don't keep you here all night. Anyway, so this picture, picture of UWL, go Eagles, just to get my plug in for them. And so all the postcard examples I'm using come from Murphy Library at UWL. And so we have quite a few postcards there, so we had a lot to choose from. So I tried to kind of pick a variety of things. But in addition to postcards, we have a lot of other archival things. The stuff you kind of think of when you think of archives, photos, diaries, letters, scrapbooks, but we also have like local publications. And see what else, we got oral histories there. Boy, when you're in front of a crowd, your mind goes blank. We have all the things, maps, all that fun stuff. And we are affiliated with the Wisconsin Historical Society. We're what's known as an area research center. There's 14 of us throughout the state. Most are at UW schools, but the big ones in Madison, that's the Wisconsin Historical Society. And then I think the one way up north is at the Great Lakes Visitor Center, because there's an UW up there. Yeah, we work with each other, so it's a really great thing. And basically, because of this partnership, we get a bunch of Wisconsin Historical Society owned materials about the area. So in the map, we have 5 counties that are around us in La Crosse, and so we have records from those areas. So it's a kind of Wisconsin idea thing, figuring that the people, the most interest for using the records from this area will probably be from people from this area. And so even though it's a bit of a drive, down here from Viroqua to La Crosse, it's still way closer than Madison, and the parking's better. It's not great, but it's better. Oh no, I wasn't supposed to say any secrets, so because of the recording. Oh no, that's all right. Don't tell UWL.
Can I ask a question? That very first slide you showed, is that building still standing?
Yep, so that's Main Hall. It was built in 1909. It's still there. They used to plant ivy around it. It was like a thing they did with the students, but they don't do that anymore because it's bad for the brick. Because like all the roots get in the brick mortar. But yep, still there.
So does it look still like that?
Pretty much the same. So they added above the doors, entrance doors. They put in elevators, and I think they did in like the 80s. So they just made them solid brick. So it's not quite as it's not quite as pretty as it could be. They're doing some work on it now, so I don't know if they'll make it a little bit more historically
they paved the road.
matching. So you used to be able to drive right by it, but yeah, they closed off a lot of the roads and made them walking paths and stuff like that. But it's still a really nice building. It's still a really good looking building. It's got the original floors in it. They're like chorizo, they're called. They're very pretty.
So you would not be able to drive by this building?
You can see, if you go down State Street, you can see one side of it there.
Okay. Yeah, I'll look for it. Thank you.
I mean, the building's open. I don't know if the building's open during the day, so if you didn't want to see the inside, you can go in and look. Let's see. So Wisconsin Historical Society, so anybody can come in. You don't have to be a member of campus. We do get a lot of students in doing research, but the general public is also welcome. All right, so let's talk about postcards. So I wrote a book on postcards. It came out in 2015. So I got to be very familiar with them, and I looked at a lot of postcards. And then I had to pick, I think there's 250 that I picked for the book. It was kind of hard to pick things, but I thought it was a really nice way to put together a history because postcards cover all sorts of things in the community, from what people do for fun to what businesses are out there, what buildings are important, what public infrastructure you have, and just everyday average people and things that they do. And so it worked out really well, I think, anyway. So this is a picture of the postcard collection. when I give people a behind the scene look at archives, sometimes it's not quite as impressive as people picture in their head. Like, we literally have, file cabinets, but they're postcard size, and they're in there. We have 2 drawers of La Crosse ones, and that's like 2,500 postcards, which, not as impressive when you look at it, but when you start looking at each and every one, it feels like a lot, trust me. And then we have ones from all over the state of Wisconsin, Minnesota, Iowa, and all over the country really, but like the further you get away from La Crosse, usually the less we have. And we're really lucky to have such a nice postcard collection because for historically, archives were less interested in postcards. They're really interested in like political history, and they wanted like letters of like presidents and mayors and senators and congressmen, and they were less interested in like everyday people. But the archivist that we had, Ed Hill, I don't know if anybody's heard of him. Sometimes some people have met him before, because he worked at UW for like 30 years. But he was like ahead of his time, and he's like, no, these are valuable, these are great for history, they say so much. And so he started collecting them really early. So we have a really nice selection. But lots of places have since started collecting them, so you'll find postcards all sorts of places at historical societies, libraries, and even in the homes of people, and people have collections of them. This is the oldest postcard that I was able to find in Murphy Library. It's from 1894. But the history of postcards go back further than that. There was some postcard activity going around in the 1840s. But a lot of people kind of debate when the first official postcard was, but a kind of agreed upon date is like 1873. But back then, like, there weren't any images, they were just blank. One side you put the address on, so this is the address side, and then the other side you wrote something textual on. Let me get the right way and so that's the other side of that. I don't know, the scanner scanned them different colors, I don't know why. Technology, this is why I work in paper. But this, at first, there were 2 different types of postcards, ones that could be sent through the US Post Office that were made by the government. So that's what this one is. It says United States of America, and those cost 1 cent to send. You can see it says 1 cent up there. And then there were private postcards, but the post office said you couldn't call them that. So if you find one that says that it's like a, now I can't remember, a private mailing card or something like that, then you can kind of help to date it. And so I'll talk about some different things that'll help date things later on in the program.
What's the purpose of this card? It just says city.
Yep, so that is the back side. So this was the guy it was sent to. He lived in La Crosse, and it was sent from La Crosse. And apparently back in the day, if you're doing that, you could just write city on it, and they're like, oh, we know where William Franz lives, and they'll just get there. You'll see some interesting addresses as you go along, but I had a great aunt and uncle that lived in Bagley, Wisconsin. We'd send them a Christmas card. We just write their name on it in Bagley, Wisconsin. They're like, that's how we get it. But they picked it up at the post office. Like, Bagley didn't have mail delivery. I don't know, it was interesting. I don't know how it works down there, but they always got the Christmas card. We just felt very weird when you wrote it out. And so the difference between like a post office postcard and a private mailing card is one costs 1 cent and the other costs 2 cents. And so for a long time, like the government had a monopoly on it. And it doesn't sound like a lot, but it's about 40 cents. I don't know. I know people that go crazy for coupons for 40 cents. But there was an act that was passed, and so then it kind of like ended the government's monopoly on things, and so things kind of started coming together at different points in time. So the back side of this one. So this is on the other side. So this is an invite to an event for the Turbine German. Yeah, so there's like the German society in La Crosse. So you can see the top's written in German and the bottom's in English. And so to me, this is like a really cool moment in time of like societal language. Like they're using two different languages, and because a lot of people think, oh, I see that now in modern times, but it actually happened in the past too. So one of the things that really increased the popularity of postcards is that they appeared at the Chicago's World Fair, and they're distributed as souvenirs, and they had pictures of the building. But it took quite a few years later, about 10 years, before postcards actually started featuring pictures commonly. So this is another old postcard I was able to find in the back, or in the special collections. This is the back of it. This was from 1906 because postcards that before 1903 are actually really hard to find. And so this is like an older one I could find. And so then this is the other side of that. So it's my first Vernon County postcard. And so because you couldn't write on the reverse side, because this is side for address only, basically that white strip at the bottom was the only space you had to write a message. You had to be really brief. And I have an example later of one that actually has writings on it.
Why isn't there a stamp on that side? Because, what they do, somebody took it off already?
This one was never sent.
Never sent.
Yeah, it was just never sent.
Okay.
Yeah. And the stamp that's on there, it's like what we mark our collecting stuff as.
Oh, right, I
Yeah,
understood that.
Yeah, so this one just never sent.
It's a library type stuff.
Yeah. But there's plenty more that I haven't sent, so you'll see some good examples of those too. All right. So postcard mania. So this is where we get to the good stuff. So basically in 1906 to 1920, people are just crazy about postcards, like Cabbage Patch Doll crazy, or I don't know, what's the modern thing, Pokemon card, what are the little oh gosh, Labubu's, anybody? Can I find Labubu's for anybody there? Like people just went crazy for these things, and they collected them. And a lot of them were sent. About the average person was sending about 2 per month, and I'm like, oh, it's about how much I post on Facebook. Actually, less now, but I was more into Facebook, I guess. In 1913, 1 billion postcards were sent in the United States, and so it's really like one of the most popular photo formats there were. Like even 35 millimeter film does not compare to how popular postcards were. And it's such a nice, collectible thing, and it's out there for people, and so that's why I think they're so great for history. And I think that we're really lucky because, like, the 1906 to 1920 era, there's just a lot of stuff going on, like when it comes to technology and society changing. You think about like cars and telephones, airplanes, electricity. I've seen postcards about refrigeration, if you can believe it, water infrastructure. We have postcards on all these things. Sewage treatment plants, like, oh, we have a new sewage treatment plant. The city will get really excited and have a picture of that. And so there's a lot of things going on. So I think that this is probably a good period for there to be postcards. At least it was convenient for me when I'm looking for things. So people used them for all sorts of things. Obviously communication, but collecting and trading was huge. And just like, it's like when you go to an event and you pick something to remember it, those sort of things. Sometimes like there's an anniversary or like a fire or something huge that people wanted to just have a visual reminder, a physical visual reminder of. I like them because like they're also very localized, and you can just see what's really important to the people and the people that actually lived in. So I picked out this postcard from Baroba because of what it says on the back. So that's the front, and on the back it says, "Here's another one for your collection." Yeah, so I added that on there so people knew what to look at. But so this is another one. There's no stamp on it, and there's also no post mark. So I don't know if it was hand delivered. But another thing that people used to do if they were collectors and they're trying to save money, they'd buy a bunch of postcards and put them in one envelope, and that they don't have to pay for postage for one thing. And so people put 5, postcards in one envelope, and they're like, that's 5 times less.
The picture before had electric lines, and it says 09. No, people didn't have electricity.
It could be phone
Well, in
lines.
the city they did.
Yeah. Or it could be phone lines too, or
No, that's electric line.
Electric.
Yeah.
But that's in the city.
Oh,
City
yeah,
city's
is
got
that
electricity
line?
long before the country.
Does anybody recognize that house?
Yeah, is that
Yeah,
house still
it's
standing?
where the hospital.
It's a block.
Where the hospital is now?
Dawson House, right across from the Quick Trip. The Quick Trip, to the hospital.
Yeah.
Right where that corner was the Dawson house.
So that's no longer standing.
No, that was torn out.
Okay.
That was our first museum.
Was it Dawson House? Wow. Well, see, I didn't even know that. That was just serendipitously was found. I'm like, that's a nice thing. Oh, and I'm like, oh, it makes my point perfectly. So I just said, like, they were used to commemorate events sometimes. So a lot of postcards, not a lot, but like there's a good number that have like kind of sad things. And I'm like, wow, who would want a postcard that shows like the destruction of a flood?
Yeah.
But there are a lot of postcards like that. And because it was such a big event to the community, and the people making them, all they cared is if someone bought them or not. And so people bought them, and so they kept getting made. So
Well, it was a picture that they didn't have cameras or anything, so that's,
Oh, wow.
I mean, when we go in Europe or something, we can't get this beautiful picture ourselves, even though we have the technology now, so we buy those because they're bright colors and all this kind of stuff.
yeah, and one thing that kind of thought up, so I was going through Westby and I was like, what's with all the plywood on the windows? And I'm like, oh yeah, that's right, I seen the pictures of that bad hailstorm on Facebook. But I was like, oh, but if someone, you know, in the past would want to show me how bad that hailstorm was, like, how would they do that? I'm like, well, I seen them on Facebook because someone took pictures, but like, you know, maybe, you know, their great Uncle Bob moved out of the area and they want to show them what happened and what the flood looked like. Well, here's a picture on a postcard I can buy, and I can mail it to them so you can know, and, you know, like.
Is this in a particular town? that's flooded?
Yeah, this one is,
They got the two men on the
I wrote
roof
it
there.
down so I can remember, but I'm pretty sure it's Ontario. Yep, Ontario, around 1909.
Yeah. You see the people that are on the roof, they're crazy.
Yeah,
I don't trust it.
The Kickapoo's been flooding for a long time, that's what that showed, yeah.
That one has a stamp.
So you guys put your stamp on everything? But wouldn't the collector say that you altered the card and therefore decreased the value of the collector?
Yeah, so it's kind of we don't get a lot of postcards in currently, actually, since I wrote the book, we've been getting more in, and this is the way it's been done, you know, since the archives at Murphy Library opened in the 60s, and it's kind of a debate for the future, because, like, some of these I was trying to read, and that's what annoyed me, is like, all the stupid stamps in the way. And I've been gravitating more towards just writing in pencil, but then the other thing is a security thing, so if like a postcard went missing and ended up on eBay, people would know that it's from. Luckily that's not usually a problem. I think it used to be more so in the past, but now that people can scan things and take pictures with their phones, way less things are disappearing. So I've been gravitating just writing the date it was donated in the corner with pencil. That way it could always be erased if need be. Yeah, it's one of those things, you know, when you're working a place like this and things get saved forever, it's like, well, is that the best way to do it now? But it was back then, and you know, y'all have to adapt and change, and trust me, I hate change. Oh man, I don't like computers, I like change, so I work in the perfect place.
So what is the deal with the yellow square
Oh,
thing?
I added those digitally because I was just gonna talk about the writing there, and so I just thought it'd help.
That's not on yet.
That's not on there, nope, that's the power of PowerPoint. But I was just thinking that, you know, sharing news, you know, and it's just so, because you didn't have very much space, this was very interesting to me because it's so blunt, like, the thing at the top, that's really sad, you know, it talks about someone that, you know, is dead and, yeah, he's dead and buried.
Dead and buried.
He's been home for 6 weeks and he got consumption of the throat. But then at the bottom, it's like, hey, did you know that Edna Johnson got married?
Yeah.
And then the
sister.
yeah, and then the sister got married at the same time. And I think at the end is what is interesting to me. You know her. Is it like, hey, you know her? Like, do you remember her? Or it'd be like, of course she got married at the same time. You know her. Like, I don't know.
So who wrote the Ontario, Wisconsin, 1909?
Oh, that was the archivist, because that's like how we decide where to what drawer to put things in, so we know. I mean, sometimes it says on the front, and sometimes it doesn't. So this is a different. That's not that one, but this one didn't say where it was on the front, so you just kind of record things. But that's in pencil, so it could be erased if you want. Yeah, a lot of these postcards don't have dates on them, so I'm going to talk about that a bit later. All right.
That's, the date stamp is up there when they,
Postmark.
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah, but a lot of times, yeah. So
There we go.
yeah,
There's the date.
yeah. Sometimes they're accurate, and sometimes they're not.
The penmanship,
You know.
the penmanship on that is formal penmanship.
I can tell by looking at the capital letters. Cause I taught Palmer.
A plumber?
Think
She
so?
probably doesn't know about Palmer penmanship.
I don't know.
She's too young to know about Palmer penmanship.
Palmer penmanship.
Okay.
She is. You've never heard of it.
No, what's that?
That's the name
It's
of
the
the
way to do the letters.
script typewriting in
Yeah.
the
How we
old,
were taught.
in the old days.
Yeah,
And then it was all formalized that it was named Palmer.
Palmer. Oh, this is because like there's more
My-
little like
my mother-
loopies, like the
my
bees
mother
or
was
ants or
proud.
squirrels.
She did.
Okay.
She wrote everything perfect in script. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm old enough to be been taught cursive.
But then if you show
But these
that
are-
to
yeah.
a 10th grader, they couldn't say, they claim they can't read it.
No, yeah. So yeah, the college kids right now struggle. They struggle with cursive. But I mean, it's one of those weird things because I don't know if AI is good or bad. I just don't know. But one thing you can do is if you take a picture of something like this and then ask AI to like type it out and what it says, it actually does a pretty good job usually. And yeah, that pains my heart to say that. But also, a good thing about it is like a lot of these students wouldn't look at records that were written in cursive unless they had a tool that would do that for them. So, I don't know, good and bad.
Look at the spelling of hoping.
So there's gonna be a lot of spelling mistakes in some of these.
Hoping you are the same.
Yeah. I like this postcard because it's just like, it shows how much different things were back then, but also the same. So this lady says that, I arrived here safe and sound. And you're like, well, by the time a postcard gets to her, like, is that relevant information? But this one on the back, oh, did I forget to put the back on this one? Uh-oh, bad Laura. You might just have to take my word for it. You're gonna have to take my word for it. On the back of this one there's a postmarked when it was sent, and then there's also a postmark for when it was received. So there's a period in time where a lot of post offices were actually marking them when they received them. And so by those two postmarks, the person sent it and it arrived to them 12 hours later. So actually pretty darn quick, considering.
All three tall buildings are gone there.
Yeah, so that's La Crosse.
And the left
yeah.
one is the post office, the middle one is the old Catholic church, and that's another Catholic church, right?
Oh, really? Looks like a warehouse.
And then, when the telephone came about, postcards were still really popular, partly because, they're quick. And I think, why do I send a text versus I call someone now? Like, I don't want to interrupt them or bother them, but it'll get to them quick. But also, the getting phones into houses took a while. I did look up that Iowa was the #1 place that had the most telephones per person early on. And even in 1923, it was still only 19 out of 100 people, 19%, I guess it said. And nationally, it was 13%. So a lot of people didn't have a phone. And the other thing was that a postcard only cost 1 or 2 cents to send. But if you went to a phone booth, it was 5 cents. So saving money. And I found this postcard and I thought this was interesting. Like, hey, do you want to come visit me? You can either let me know by mail or you can call me, whatever you want. So the phone was there, but they were technologies that were overlapping each other. And yeah, sometimes I think the postcards are they're like the texts of the day, or maybe even because they're a little more public because they were in an envelope. Like, are they kind of like Twitter or Facebook? I don't know. But you can see how they're very informal. And I keep, when I look through these postcards, oftentimes it says, I will write when I have more time. I'm writing you a letter, but I haven't finished it yet. There are tons of them that say that. So it's like, hey, letter writing is people thought about it a lot, and wanted to take their time with it. But if you had something to share that you wanted to get there quickly, a postcard to do it. And I kind of think that example with hey, this person died, and these 2 people got married, it kind of must have been like that. Also, I feel like postcards were very popular because of rural free delivery mail. And because that program made mail more reliable out to rural areas, they got mail often versus with early phones, there was a lot of problems, and I guess there was competing phone companies, and especially if it was over a distance and all these things had to happen, And I remember like grandma had a party line when I was little, and what a pain in the butt that was. You're like, oh, the neighbor's talking, that's annoying. So I kind of wonder if that's why there are so many postcards, even for super small towns. And so I've always been told to say this, Sophia. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, okay.
Now, some spell it PH, some spell it L.
All right.
But it was donated by the farmhouse right at the start of the road there, donated that initial 40 acres for the park.
Yeah, I've been down there. It's very
It's
pretty.
so deep.
Yeah, people keep trying to tell me that it's not how you say it, so that makes me feel better. And I go, are you from there? And they go, no. And I'm like, well, I'm gonna ask people from there. So
How do they pronounce it?
Well, it used to be a
oh,
lot
E
more-
Sophia or something, you know, or you know.
Well, there it is, the house is right there on the left.
Yeah.
That's the McKibben and Rentz was the name, R-A-N-T-Z was the name of the family that donated that 40 acres.
Yeah, it's such a pretty area. So this is circa 1910. So I was trying to think, I wonder how many people live there. How many people live there now versus back then is about the same. I don't know, does anybody have a guess for
Yeah,
that
post
one?
office and everything, but
Yeah,
most
post
of
office.
those buildings are all gone now.
And it's called
No
the
electric line.
Yeah, Rent.
Yeah,
Park
no
is
one
there.
No
Yeah.
holes.
Rent is on the park name too.
Yeah. Yeah, well, Rentz is the name of the family that donated
Right.
land.
Right.
And then McKibben, a descendant of that, donated another 20-30 acres, so the park is much bigger now than when the Rentz donated.
It's kind of a nice legacy though, to donate something like that. Yeah, I was gonna say the other tiny place I found a postcard for was Liberty Pole. It was like a school with a bunch of children and the teachers, so I thought that was nice.
Well, they're still there.
Yeah, like, oops. Awkward. Sorry. But yeah, we have like, I know sometimes these places are unincorporated, so it's hard to know. Like there's a place called Disco, Wisconsin, and a student was doing research on there because they were from there or something. And I was like, what? Who's ever heard of that? Like, I don't know if we have pictures. And I went back there and we had like 10 postcards. I was just like, learn something new today. UW, Wisconsin's another really small town. We have postcards there too. I think postcards are really great too because you get like a feeling of people's personalities that you don't always get through just regular pictures. But you don't have to be quite as dedicated as looking through a bunch of letters and diaries. But you just get these little glimpses of things. So I told you my relatives would make an appearance. So here they are. Margaret Ayler, that's my great grandmother, and this postcard was sent to her from her dad when she was 6 years old. And he says, those are the horses we use here. Well, you're like, okay, that's nice. But then you flip it around, and you're like, come on now. You're gonna confuse the 6-year-old. You know? And I'm like, and then also horses, this is the only one. So I'm like, well, I would never have guessed. He's a very stern looking man in all the photos that I've seen, but apparently he has a bit of a sense of humor. So that's him, like, he's all the way on the right. So, looking very, I don't know, rotund. Sorry, now I'm in trouble. See, I'm in the video. Oh man.
And everybody,
Maybe I should have said no to the video.
But
No.
he's showing that he has a pocket watch.
He is
with
showing.
his chain.
Yeah.
everybody's wearing a suit and everybody's got a hat.
Yeah, there's a lot of them, you
Must
know,
be
it's like
Sunday. It's Sunday.
people always wear their best for the photos. So he lived in Chaseburg for a while. He also lived in Shelby. People might have, or Ayler's Cave and Mill and all that up there. So that was his father. But he also owned the Chaseburg roller mills. So I have a picture of that at the end. But here he's in New Lisbon, and he's writing his daughter, who's in La Crosse, staying with family while he's gone. And so it's like, well, it's connected to this area, but you would never know it. And so like, I always think of postcards like a little bit of detective work. And so, you know, like, well, in this case, I knew who the people were, but in some cases you don't. And even in stuff that's handed down to you from your family, you're like, who is this person? And sometimes there's enough clues to figure things out. But sometimes it leads to more questions, like, I didn't know he went there. What was he doing there? Was it an important event? They took a picture, so that seems kind of important. Was he visiting family? I don't know, I've done all my genealogy. I could find any family in New Lisbon. Was he researching, you know, flour mills or roller mills? Or, you know, like, was he looking to buy a flour mill there? I don't know. Like, so sometimes you can find out these answers and sometimes you can't. But I still think it's interesting. So in addition to like people's humor, like another popular type of postcard was just general humor. And so these kind of just remind me of postcard or greeting cards today. I don't know if you can read that, but it says, "Dear, I hope to run across you soon," and someone's getting run over, so it's pretty funny.
Yeah, the man is laying on the
Yeah.
ground. You see his hand, but his head is over there with, looking at the tires.
He's very trusting. I don't know.
The driver's up there too.
Yeah.
He's moving the tires.
You can hit there. So has anybody seen a trolley in Chaseburg before?
Cheeseburger,
Yeah, Chaseburg, Wisconsin. Well, funny story. There was old timey Photoshop. so this
Well,
is the actual picture,
Oh, okay.
and somebody old timey Photoshopped that in there.
well, yeah, there was a train going through.
There was a train. Yeah, it wasn't this one though.
No,
You-
the train went out 38.
Yeah. This is a streetcar. And I don't know. It's like.
Cheeseburger.
Yeah, usually like when they do this, it's supposed to be funny. So I don't know if they're like saying like, "Hey, Chaseburg's so small," or just I don't. Yeah, sometimes over the years the humor is lost, but I feel like it's something like that. To me, it's like where it's a little interesting. Now I did find postcards both Coon Valley and Chaseburg, I think, where someone photoshopped a plane in them over the depot, like the train depot, and I don't know why. I can't think of a reason. And so I took a picture, so if anybody has a guess, I can show you on my phone because I'd really like to know.
The train itself is known as the appendicitis run
Yeah,
because at Gunderson, they developed the appendicitis operation, and so people would come from Heroka on the train to get to Gunderson,
you understand.
and so it's known as the appendicitis run.
I did find a postcard that, like I found several that said like Care of Gunderson or St. Francis or whatever, or it talks about people having to go and get medical stuff done. Like, because sometimes the back of the postcard like relates to, something that's on it or has an important message, and sometimes it's like, "How are you? Weather's nice. Hope you're well. Bye-bye."
But that power pole there, that would be a phone line because there's a whole bunch of wires up there. But it's not clear where the wires go heading this way, so it's kind of weird that there's a pole and no wires are visible.
Yeah, maybe, but maybe there's like a moment in time where they put up the pole and the wires weren't up yet. Or sometimes it has to do with the exposure of the camera, probably too, because if it's like, if the sky's blown out, then the wires will disappear.
And there's two poles. See, there's one further on by where the trees are.
Pole, but there's no visible wire, it's just weird.
I wonder how much misinformation you can get from these old postcards.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of like, I was thinking of I'm like, well, I could see that, because that one was done really well. And even the plain one, even though it was done poorly, because I don't know what the plane should have looked like, I'm like, well, maybe they're like some kind of canvas, like that's why it's a different color. But once I seen the second one, I'm like, oh, I thought you were fake. Almost tricked me. But that still happens on Facebook all the time, gosh, someone sent me something not that long ago, and I'm like, that is not real. This is old timey AI. I shouldn't update my, I don't know, when I first started doing these presentations, like, there was an AI then, so I was like, Photoshop, I'm like, oh yeah, also AI. It was probably had to work at a lot more.
That was the second picture they made in 1840 was Photoshop. So.
Yeah. Yeah, and sometimes I do it for aesthetic reasons, like we have a picture of Riverside Park where someone, whited out the power lines, I think, just to make it look nicer, because they're just kind of in the way. Yeah, all sorts of things though.
What's that four-letter word there in the beginning?
I think it's supposed to be seen, but either they misspelled it,
Wow.
or sometimes when you you could either on the negative you could paint it or you could scratch it, and so sometimes if you didn't paint it, the paint could have peeled off, or if you didn't scratch deep enough. But I didn't see any scratches in this one, so either the paint peeled off or they misspelled it.
Misspelled.
Yeah, so that was kind of like my other thought about misinformation too, is like sometimes things get mislabeled. Like I have a picture of Riverside Park and it says Pettibone Park on there, so it's probably made from someone outside the area and they just got confused. But like today, we're looking at that and you're not from La Crosse, you'd be like, well, it says Pettibone on it. Yeah, I have several postcards of the Ayler Mill area, and I've seen Ayler spelled all sorts of fun different ways that are wrong, and usually with the E or something like that. But it makes, like, when you digitize things and you search for things, it makes finding those things harder. It just brings confusion into it. But it kind of goes back to that detective work also.
So is that CCNC? Are those
Yeah.
initials? And does that stand for, like, what's that building there?
Yes, I think it says scene at Ontario, Wisconsin.
Yeah, I think it's a misspelling of scene.
I think they either misspelled scene or the S peel model. Yeah, so.
That's really stretching C, with the C.
Yeah. Yeah, but I do think that is some kind of like planing, lumber planing or something, because everything that's, the way it looks and all the lumber out there. But it doesn't say, so I can't say for sure. Yeah, sawmill, yeah. That was the word I was looking for. Like a place where they plane.
Water, see, you got white stuff coming down the hill, must be their water system there or something, for the mill. There's something right in there.
Yeah, that looks about right.
Water is tumbling right from there.
Yeah, this one's a little bit faded, so it's harder to tell. But one nice thing about scanning them, if you took the time, you can darken things and change the contrast, so you can kind of figure out what's going on. But I think the picture is just part of it, because like you can see what were people's grammar and spelling, and kind of get an insight to like education levels back then. What languages are people using? I found a whole bunch of postcards in Norwegian and German, and some of them are written in like part in German and part Norwegian, where they're switching words back and forth. And so that's like a special moment of time, and you can see how formal people are depending on who they're writing to. So like if they're writing to their daughter about a horse that's not a horse, like that's very fun and informal. But other ones you can be like, well, I got your message and I received this and I will deliver the money on this day. Very formal, very nicely written. So you can kind of get a sense of like what the purpose was, like just beyond that. And you can just see what's important to people and what they thought was important. And like, even if these aren't your relatives, if they're from the area, you can see what they saw every day and what people and things they interacted with, and what things are kind of normal for the time. There's quite a few postcards that are people getting sick or and having ailments and all sorts of things, and so you get a sense of just how prevalent health problems were back then. And
Do we have a year on that?
yeah, let's see, that one is circa 1909. So this is from La Crosse. I always think like technological change is really cool. So this is the first flight in La Crosse. They weren't from La Crosse, but this guy was flying around the nation. So it was the first airplane in La Crosse, and so people are like, we gotta take a picture of that. Yeah, that's another aeroplane. And when you wrote on the negative, you had to write backwards, for it to come out the right way. And so I think the ends were a little trickier for this person. And also, if you weren't like super familiar with making photos, or you just had a bad day and got confused, there are quite a few where you look at it and you're like, wait a minute, that sign's backwards. I did find one of those. I didn't scan it though, but I was just like, because it was so small, it's hard to see. And there might still be on there. And I was like, that feels like the wrong side of the
What was
street.
the year on that one?
Yes, airplane one was 1911. So this is about 1930, and this is Lafarge. And so I thought this is cool because like just a few years ago, like there'd be a mix of cars and horses on the street. But here, I don't see any horses at all cars, and you can see the Chevy dealership and
The building on the left there.
how quickly.
Chevrolet garage, and that building's still standing.
Yeah.
Also, the hardware, the next one down is the hardware store, and that's supposedly the oldest hardware store in the state of Wisconsin. And on the right, I can't quite see it, was Donaldson's hardware store also.
Wish I could have brought the whole shore postcards, because like I'm like I wonder, because there was some stores, and different things, but I don't know. I wouldn't have known if it was the oldest or not. So that's a cool one.
They had poles on both sides of the street.
Yeah.
This guy could.
There's another.
So it looks like it's power on the left and phone on the right.
Yeah. I thought the car on the right, if you look at it, the tires have chains on them. And then you can see like an early road sign there too. And yeah, just in the postcards a few years before that, you wouldn't see any of those things. It's like, wow, that happened quick. And so this is one of the road making ones. So this is Lafarge around 1907, 1910. And it's like, wow, we're making a road. Let's make it a postcard, but it's probably a big deal.
The railroad came through on the lower end of town down there.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if this was like in response to like switching to cars and then you had nicer roads, or just like the areas more prosperous, or just needed it. I don't know. And you can see other clues, like there's that sign that says millinery. Boy, that was a hard word to say. And I was telling the story how I said I was going to make a Xerox today, and my students looked at me funny, and I was like, whoa, I was dating myself there. Like, what's a Xerox? But I was like, I could see them going, that's a millinery, But yeah, in this one you can see that there's a light in the middle too, hanging off one of the power lines there, so they probably have some kind of street lighting going on.
Yeah, in the front,
Light right in
it's
the
in
middle
the
of the
front,
street.
Yeah, in La Crosse, the old ones, they just had, instead of having like multiple street lights real low, they had these huge towers and a big spotlight up above it, and so it just illuminated a whole block.
Now,
But they had to replace them because then the trees grew and the light wouldn't go through the trees anymore.
They still have those tall towers down in Austin, Texas.
They have, that's because they don't have trees, probably. No, I think you have trees in
Well,
Austin,
they
I'm just
saved
teasing.
them for historic.
They saved them,
It's
yeah.
the only one in the country that has those giant towers.
Yeah, it was really cool looking. I just kind of wish, so you can see that technological change, that sort of things. You can see different traditions. Obviously, this is the big ski jump in Westby, but also like I know they moved hills, and the name of the Snowflake Club was something else before, and yeah, there wasn't one of them taken out by a tornado or something.
No, I don't know about
That was a big
tornado, but the one that's the big one out there now, they replaced the one that was right across the valley.
Yeah, so this is Anderson Hill, and isn't it Timber Coulee now? I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, it's super.
Yeah. So they moved around, so it's a little different. You can see how things change over time. My favorite are bizarre, weird things. Like, I seen this one day, I'm like, well, that's weird. And then like, over the years, I kept coming across these. I'm like, and they're different kids, and different goats, and different wagons. But they say the name of the city and the year. And I'm like, well, what's going on? What's the deal with the kids and goats? Are they pet goats? Like, I don't know, they robbing them from Meyer Park when they had a zoo. And so it was like just some bizarre trend. Like these photographers would go around to different cities and hey, for $10, put your kid in the car, I'll take your picture. And they just made money that way. But I had no idea until I kept finding these postcards. I'm like, what's it? Oh, kids and goats. But I liked it. I thought it was really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, so here's Coon Valley, and so this was an advertisement. I take photos, every Friday, and like when we have like our I was mentioning earlier, like it was all political history and stuff like that. So I really like postcards too because they show average people, working class people. Here's this guy, he just sits every Friday, come get your picture taken. I'm just trying to make a living here. But this is one of those ones where I have questions like, was the church this busy every Sunday? Or was this setting my, or like was it marriage or death?
Church now, it's got all kinds of nice buildings attached to the left. And there used to be a 2-story schoolhouse to the right.
Mm-hmm. So is this
Schoolhouse
before
behind.
that then?
There's a whole bunch of nice attachment buildings to the left there.
So this one was dated around 1907,
Yeah.
and I see they have a big tent set up. That's why I was like, well, is it a big thing, or it was just?
The cornerstone is 1847. Goes back ways.
A lot of white is in there, maybe it was a wedding.
Yeah, it could be. Or it's not
Or
really.
they're waiting out for a parade.
Yeah.
On both sides of the street.
Oh yeah, and then on the flagpole you can
there
see
you
the
go.
U.S. flag, and then below it you can see a Norwegian flag, and I'm like, that seems about right.
Yeah, it's kind of weird place to have a parade on the street.
Yeah.
It's not main.
Yeah, maybe there's a fundraiser. Like I have questions. And if you can get a precise date, sometimes like if you look in newspapers at that time, you can kind of figure out what's going on. So I have some that I've done that for. But that one, we just,
Why don't you go back a second?
Oh, yeah.
Is that a Norwegian flag or a?
I think it's a Norwegian flag.
Yeah, it's a Norwegian flag.
Yeah, that's what I was setting mine, but I was like, that's probably up all the time. Who am I kidding? Immigrants were another group that was featured in postcards quite a bit that normally didn't make other types of records. Probably one reason is because like a lot of fraternal societies and other social groups, were based around nationalities that immigrated here. But this one's La Crosse, so this is St. Lance on Winnebago Street. So this is about 1912, and it's kind of interesting because they're holding American history books. We can see. I'm like, oh, is that on purpose? But in the background, you can see on the chalkboard there are words written in Czech. So it's like, again, it's that kind of special moment in time where, both things are being preserved,
We're writing.
Yeah, now I know
Did
that
that
is
come from Europe then?
the postcard or?
No.
Oh, the writing. Oh, I don't know.
Gave it a name.
Yeah, Palmer, yeah.
But
That's a
look
good
at how
question.
fluid it is, very, very fancy.
Yeah. That's a cool question. See, this is Hillsborough. Oh,
Go
yeah.
back, what did it say at the top of that chalkboard? What does does that say?
Yeah, the banners.
So,
What's the
yeah,
banners?
Something master.
Oh, yeah, well, this says Winnicott list, and then, this is grade school, and I think it says the year, this is 1912 year, yeah, this is.
But what about the
Don't matter.
banner? About the names?
That's a good question, yeah.
Does it say mother up there in the
Yeah.
middle?
No, I think it says master.
Master?
It could be something, yeah, this one didn't
That's,
blow up very good.
that's the kind of grade school desk, that's the kind of desk I have.
But like, this is another event I didn't know about, netting carp in Hillsborough around 1908, but it's like, wow, just look at the community out there working together, and not just for like a big party like Oktoberfest, and so I was like, wow, I never would have guessed those things. This is one, because of the banners, I was able to find exactly what was going on. I'm like, what is this? This isn't a real train, this is a post photo. And these people are like in their straw hats and going on. But I was able to zoom in on those banners, and it said Made in La Crosse Week, and then it had a date. And so I went to the newspaper, and apparently it was a big city homecoming where La Crosse has inaugurated the biggest celebration in the history of the city. There's going to be boat races, picnics, exhibits, parades, and one auto clad with 150 flowers, and also receptions. So that's what the newspaper said. I was like, well, again, I don't know if there's anybody around that remembered that happened, but thanks to the power of postcards, and I read articles about it, it actually sounded pretty cool.
What year were we talking?
That was 1914? Yeah, it was June 28th through July 4th, 1914. Made in La Crosse Week, and the college, UW did something, the schools did something, average people that moved away came back.
That's supposed to be like an end of a train or something?
Yeah, I think it's supposed to be the caboose. Yeah, but when you look at the original, you can tell like the lighting's kind of funky, and I'm like, oh, this looks totally staged, like for a photo op sort of thing. It makes sense with the pennants and all that stuff. All right, back to Vernon County. So,
Coon Valley. Okay.
yeah, Coon Valley Hotel. I'm like, well, it kind of shows. Like-
Building and book.
Yeah, like so a lot of times, like when a building was newly built, that was pretty fancy and new to me. Like that's about they take the picture right away, and so that's like one way to date postcards there to see like a building. And so this one I think is definitely telephone lines because there's the sign by the door says telephone here.
Okay, good. In 1901?
This one, is around 1908. Yeah, and this one is cool too because is it cut off? No, it's there. You can see a buggy back here, so that helps date things that it's not a car. Again, the overlap obviously in those times. So, but you kind of can narrow things down. When I do find a car though, I always text it to my dad because he's so good at identifying cars. So I'm like, Dad, what year is this? And he's like, well, that is a 19 whatever. Blah, blah, blah. I've also dated things by license plates, like if it's a good enough photo. And so, man, you ever get one of these things is awesome with a loop, and you can really, otherwise you can scan it and zoom in too, but this is great if you don't want to scan everything because it takes forever sometimes.
What is that guy sitting on?
Yeah, I think it's a metal rail,
Yeah, it's a railing
Yeah,
wall.
because they're going downstairs into the basement there.
Yeah, he almost looks like he's floating, doesn't he?
I wonder it's holding him up. And they look
Well, they
skinny.
certainly got an unusual irrigation or whatever they get to drain the city.
Yeah.
It's like a 2-foot drop right below that woman there. I don't know.
Yeah, 'cause, then you had all the horse poop to get rid of. Those look like wooden sidewalks, and then you had probably a door down there, and it's not like, there's like, I don't know, when I show like some of these new houses that were built, pictures to students, and I'm like, wow, they look really great, everything looks new, but like, why didn't they put a sidewalk? And I'm like, I don't know, people just didn't. I would say another way to date things is actually by the paper that was used itself, because different companies use these paper, the paper that you mounted the picture to, and then they use different fonts at different times, and like what it says, like this space is for messages and all that would change over the years. And there have been people, and they've gone through all that, and they've written books, so you don't have to do that. And it has that kind of information in there where you're like, so you have to find your postcard, you can match it up, and they can tell you when that paper was made. And so sometimes it's a range of like 10 years, sometimes it's just a year, but it's not perfect because like sometimes like if you didn't sell a lot of postcards, you have a stack of, of a certain day. So it's like a new old stock thing, or like, well, this poster, picture was taken in 1916, but I still haven't used up the backing paper I bought in 1910, so there can definitely be a gap there. Oh man, I didn't even make it nearly as far as I thought before I declined. But and you know, another clue or like is who's it sent to, you know, so you can like look up this person. If there's an actual street address, you can look them up. Like you use city directories, you can use census records, you can use tax rolls, and then if you know, like if you say like this guy, I can't remember what the name is, I'm just gonna call him Mr. H.A. And you look him up and he's like, oh, he lived at that address from 1910 to 1920, well then you have a 10-year span, right? And then maybe you'll compare it to like the backing paper on the postcard, and of course the stamp too, you know, and sometimes like if you have a 2-stamp stamp and it looks like it's older, well that means it was sent between 1917 and 1919 because they raised the price to 2 cents during World War I. I love it when those things happen because it makes things easier. So this is where that postcard appears that backing paper appears in this book. So then I can tell you, well, it's from around that time, 1908. Yeah, and 1908. Yeah. So and sometimes if you look at stuff you can kind of guess, and you're like, I was like close. That's kind of a fun game too.
What town is LAX?
La Crosse.
Wow.
Yeah, and again, somehow it got there with like just LAX written on it
Yeah.
and no street address.
Well, they even do that today. You go up there and the cops have their band on their thing and it just
Oh,
says
yeah.
LAX on
Oh,
there.
yeah, okay. Haven't
Everybody
had too
uses
much to do
LAX
with the
up
cops.
front.
So another dating trick is like before 1907, that's when you have like, you could only use the backside for the address. And then you had to stick your message on the front. So that's what it looks like when someone tries to stick their message on the front. And so you can see why they might have changed that in 1907 because people are like, well, that's just not enough room. I even heard recently that Twitter expanded the number of characters you can use. So I'm like, well, there's demand, I guess, for more space sometimes. And then this one, it has the name also of the publisher, so FM Towner. And so, like, you can also figure out when that person was publishing things, and that can help narrow things down too. So there's a lot of things like that.
What was the name you just said?
Let's see. Oh, I wrote it down. FM. Now I've lost it, of course.
Towner.
Towner. Yeah. Okay. So now I'm like, oh, you said making sure I get it right. Yeah.
There was a Towner store, wasn't there?
It did seem to be a local person because I found that name on quite a few of the postcards. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. So see, leads you to more things that you can look into and research if you want to. Another thing is like what kind of printing it is. So some of the postcards are printed, like screen printed, and other ones of them are like real photo postcards. Now, when I was doing Vernon County, I was having a hard time finding the printed ones because that was a more expensive process. Like you had to take the image and make plates and screen printing things. And so if you did that, you want to sell thousands of them. So this is one of the few ones I found, and another one, but most of the ones I found were real photo postcards, which is actually kind of a good thing because they're usually more detailed and they're usually like more unusual things that you wouldn't see in other places. Like, so La Crosse, like most of our printed postcards are like the Bluff. And I'm like, oh, that's nice. But, the Bluff isn't interesting, but made in La Crosse Day, that they wouldn't make a printed postcard of that, that's a photo thing. And so, it depends on what you're looking for though too, because, it's nice they try to hand colorize them, but like a lot of times the color was wrong, especially since a lot of times this was like more involved work. And so like it involved people from outside the area. So, the one that says Pettibone Park instead of Riverside Park, that was a printed postcard. So I could see how that mistake, could be made. So this one is circa 1907. I love the big drum that says Viroqua on it. So Viroqua. And so it makes sense that it's like the ones I found was a bigger city. The other one I found was from Genoa, but it says Genoa, near La Crosse. So I feel like they're targeting a different market.
Is this the courthouse, do you think?
Oh.
Would that be the courthouse entrance? Do
I
you
don't
know?
think that's the local place.
3rd Regiment
Oh, there's
Band.
the courthouse.
Was there a 3rd Regiment, or they just called themselves
Was the
that?
courthouse there?
Another good question.
I don't know where the courthouse is.
Yeah, see, they do lead to but it strikes your fancy, right? And so this is why I think they're great for like local history things and topics and whatever, because say you work at a museum and you want to make interesting exhibits and perhaps things people haven't seen before, like you dive into those postcards and you're going to be asking questions like that. It would be funny if they just made that up and there's
Right, right.
was there a streetcar there? I don't know. We'll find out. And just the fact they made it. So, but if you find a printed postcards, it's likely from between 1900 and 1915, because that's when the most of them are made. But there's still a good number of them too. So a good way to narrow that down is if they're printed in a different country, like especially in Germany, but also like Holland. That was probably an earlier one, so that was probably between like 1903 and 1915 if it says Germany on there, just because American printers just didn't have the technology and skill, and so they made printed postcards, but they look not as good. And so if you have a printed postcard, it doesn't look that good. That was probably an American one, and then it could also be between 1903 and 1915, but it looks good. That's probably the year. So it gets very complicated fast. Like sometimes you have to make a chart to keep track of all these things. The photo postcards, they were popular during that same time too. So 1906 to 1920s. So it kind of all overlaps.
Tickle Valley and Northern Railroad.
Yeah.
DeSoto.
This is DeSoto. Yeah, 1908 about circa 1908. Yeah, and there's a lot of pictures of seacoasts and stuff, and Mississippi and all that fun stuff. Cool bluff in the background. Yeah, but I find that the photo ones are like you get that documentary style. They're usually like a local photographer, like Moen in La Crosse is a big photographer in La Crosse. So you see a lot of those too. But not all real photo postcards are the same quality. So there's my family again. So someone probably did this one themselves. And you can see it's kind of messed up. I don't know if the photo is that bad or if they're trying to make a postcard from an already existing photo. But that could probably be found out. But so that's probably cheaper. But and then let's see.
St. Francis.
Yeah, St. Francis. This is pretty funny on my thing. So this is called the white border era. And so it was during World War I where they're like, oh, we can't get postcards from Germany anymore because reasons. And so we better learn how to print these themselves. But because it was World War I, they were trying to save money and like cut back, just like people were trying to do for food and resources like metal and stuff like that. And so they decided to put a white border around them, so they'd use less ink for the war effort. And so if you find one like this, it's probably from and then the Great Depression happened. So between World War I and the Great Depression, you'll find a lot of these with the borders and to me, it's like, wow, does that much ink save money? But apparently it did, But this is when American printers also got better because they're like, well, we don't have Germany anymore. We better figure out how to do this. The tricky part is that these ones look a lot like linen postcards, and so the white border ones were like World War I to 1930, and then 1930 to 1945 are the linen ones. But if you look real close, you can see the cross hatches in it. And if you actually have, I brought a few examples if people want to touch them and hold them. But like when you find a linen one, like you can feel it. It's actually kind of nice. But yeah, this is the Genoa Dam near La Crosse. So, but I had to look pretty hard to find that. That one was printed by the Spence Drug Company in La Crosse, and the photo was by Moen Photo. I just didn't even know that was an accident. Yeah. So I don't want to like keep you here too long, but if you're worried about copyright stuff, actually a lot of these postcards are on copyright. So if you ever did want to publish them, there's some websites online. If you just search for like postcard copyright, it'll give you which is fair game and which is not fair game. But when we were making the book, we found out way more of them are fair game than you think. So this is a tavern in Hillsborough, and maybe near circa 1909. So anybody know this one? I thought it was a really cool, striking image though. Like the
Little horse.
yeah, very like and it's like very properly standing the horse. He's just like at attention. He's like, oh, am I getting my picture taken? So I like that picture a lot. So like I guess I always end this like, so do we have postcards today? Like are things gonna get saved? Well, in the archive world, it's called preservation by neglect. When someone finds something and they're like, oh man, under the bed in a shoebox, I found a whole bunch of postcards from my grandma. Maybe I should get those to an archive because they're really cool and historical. But like now that we post things on Facebook or we have pictures on our phone, like are they ever gonna make it into into an archives? Like unless you share your password with someone, your iPhone's super locked down. You know, you can't even depend on social media. A friend of mine, he has this picture of him climbing, rock climbing, and he falls, and he wanted to show it to his mom to give her a heart attack, but he had it on MySpace, and he went there, gone.
Are you aware that the Amish, they use postcards all the time? That is their way of, yeah.
I didn't know
You
that.
go take your lawnmower for them to fix or something, and they send you a postcard back saying it's done. And you owe me so much money.
Yes, someone has to keep postcards alive. Yeah. So the person the person I co-wrote the book with, whenever he goes on vacation now, he sends me a postcard. He's like, postcards live on. It's usually what he writes on. It's usually something like that. But yeah, because I mean, I do worry. And even if like someone has access to your Facebook, like who owns that? Does Facebook own it? Do you own it? I don't know if that's legally been decided or not. And then Facebook like compresses the image and all those sort of things. But people have thought about this. People way smarter than me have thought about this. And so the Library of Congress thought about this, and they're like, oh yeah, maybe we should try to save every tweet ever. Well, that went poorly, because there's a lot of tweets. Right. There's 500,000 tweets daily. That's 350,000 per minute, 5,800 per second, 5,800 tweets per second. 15 billion tweets monthly, 180 billion yearly. And so they quickly decided, not as quickly as I would have thought, we can't save all those. And there's so many, like, there's no good way to provide people access to them. And people are like, oh, well, maybe Twitter will be around forever. And I was like, well, is that what people thought in 1900, you know? Like we don't, you know, they thought the telegraph would be around forever. We don't telegraph people anymore. I don't, with internet's even gonna exist in 100 years, everything's gonna be totally different. Like, I don't know. Like, I had people come to me and they're like, I published something in a newsletter at UWL in 2007, and I can't find it on the website now. You have it. I'm like, no. And I'm like, that was only like 20 years ago. Like, what's going to happen in 100 years? And so, tell all your friends, children, grandchildren that they should write things down sometimes. And if they do print out a picture or a postcard, they should label it.
Yeah.
Year, people, where, person, place, thing, why, who, what, where, when, why, and how. Right? So, because otherwise, who knows what's going to survive? Or maybe we'll have so many things we won't even know what to do with them. I don't know. But I like this guy's. He's like, I'm going to be remembered forever for
Oh,
poop.
there's your donkey.
Yeah.
Rush Creek.
So yeah, I mean, so like people now, you know, they still take pictures of their family, you know, and sometimes it's at their home, but it's not on a postcard, you know, so what's going to happen in the future? You know, people need to print. This is my personal, I don't know if this is probably a losing proposition, but I'll just keep putting it out there in the universe, and hopefully someone smarter than me will figure it out. But I like this one. It's like, there's 6 children, and they look like they're age 1 to 18, and grandma. And so you learn, you know, a little bit about, you know, society back then and lives. And then, but there's some weird screens up on the top window, they show up not too well. But yeah, they're like 2 by 2 inch like chicken wire, and I'm like, well, that doesn't keep out bugs. And I was like, is it to keep the baby from falling out the window? That's the only thing I could think of. But I'm like, well, I have more mysteries to just, you know, every time I look at these, I find more mysteries. So I'll end this with, since I called him Roton, Louis Ayler, and his pocket watch, so Chase Bird. So yeah, so I don't know, I just think that, you know, postcards are great because they're just, they're relatable to people, and they're about everyday people, and they teach us things that we don't think about, you know. It's more than just like the big names, the mayors and the presidents and the events. It's like, what was life like? And you get it in so many different ways. You get a visual way, you get a written way, and then you get all these other questions, and you can be a detective, and you can follow the clues. And yeah, every time I look at these postcards, I find something new, I learn something new. And so I never get sick of them. I could have done worse for time, but sorry. I don't know, anybody have any questions?
Your book there?
This is the one that I use to, I use to figure out what kind of paper and stuff they're on. I did bring an example. It's in my backpack all the way over here. It's little, yeah, I'll try to take care of that in a minute. I just stepped on. Yeah. So yeah. But mine's littler, it's paperback, but people are like, oh, you wrote a book? And I'm like, oh, I'm too impressed. It's a picture book, but. Yeah, the guy I co-wrote it with, we were checking it over, all the writing to make sure the grammar's right. And the guy's brother goes, "Well, I didn't bother. I was just gonna look at the pictures." And I'm like, "Oh, well." They're like, "You're probably right, though."
Thanks for coming.
Oh, no problem. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Now I learned something about the Amish, and I learned a whole bunch about Sophia, and I have to write these things down before I forget.
The fascinating thing for me about postcards is the party line-esque openness of
Yeah.
in all the postcards that you viewed. Do you have any anecdotes about one being especially humorous or salacious
Oh.
or anything?
It's usually too much information, like, if so-and-so went to the hospital and they puked their guts out, they're not quite like that, but usually it's like, oh my,
I don't mean to put you on the spot.
Yeah, I mean, I can think of some letters that we have in the collection that are like that. Like, there's some letters between two sisters, and one letter goes, "Well, why don't you just shut up then?" Which I'm like, is a weird thing to say through a letter. And then they didn't write again for like 5 years. So I'm like, oh, she meant it. But I can imagine that being in a postcard, but yeah. I'm trying to think of one now, but nothing's coming to me off the spot. But
My, in the early 90s, I was going to one of the bookstores in La Crosse, either Walden Books or B. Dalton's, whatever which one was in the mall. And they had a little wheel with postcards on it. And I took a look at one of them and I went, that looks familiar. And it was a picture of my mom and dad's farm. It was an example of contour farming. I have no idea who took the photo or why they put it into a postcard, but yeah, that was unnerving to look and see.
Did you buy the postcard?
I bought several of them.
yeah, right? Yeah, sometimes you don't know, like I found things, because my family's from this area, about my family, and I'm like, no one ever told me about this or this picture or whatever. But then I find other things in the pictures that were saved, like there's a picture of a bunch of young girls having a picnic. I'm like, well, what is this? Is this a school trip? Like, what's going on? No, nothing, doesn't say anything on it. And then I found a copy of it's a postcard, and I found a copy of it at the archive, and I'm like, oh, here's my answer finally. And I turn it over, nothing. I was like, no, then I just have two, and I don't know what they are. And I have the planes, I don't know what the planes mean now. That's a new mystery for me. That'll be in my head for forever. Like, what is this? But yeah, I mean, it's cool that when you come across things, or you like, even if it's like just something written to a family member or something that you never would have known, like, part of me is like, I gotta check all these, but I did check all the Chasebird ones. I didn't find any from them.
Do you know when the stamps changed? Because I was thinking when I was little and writing postcards, I used to write postcards all the time. They were 3 cents, so that would have been like the 50s and 60s. Do you know when that was?
So I know they're the 2 cents one was during World War I. But yeah, this is these ones go up to 1938. So I guess that's not gonna be your answer. But I feel like that's a Google question. Yeah, we don't have very many postcards after like the 40s. So usually this solves my problem. Yeah, it's so many Ben Franklin and George Washington ones. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of them in here. I'm like, I've never seen any of these stamps. Yeah, I only see commemorative stamps. I don't think I've seen any of the regular stamps. I see those all the time. But yeah, it's way easier to date them with that backing, postcard backing. But yeah. I actually converted the money-wise, and like for inflation, and it costs quite a bit, quite a bit more to send a postcard nowadays than it did back then. But it's actually, if you can call it for inflation, cheaper to send a letter now than it was back then. Like, what does that mean?
How do people make a postcard today, like something like this?
How would they make them?
How difficult would it be to make a postcard?
I don't think too hard. I mean, I still see them around town in different places. And yeah, I bet you somebody makes stacking paper if you want to make a real photo postcard. But yeah, not too many people, take photos anymore, they take digital photos. But you could print digital ones. You could probably go on your computer and, you could have AI do it for you and make it, or if you have someone who's good at Canva or Photoshop and print them out that way. But I guess it depends on how true to the form you want to be. But there are students at UWL that are photography majors, and they like bringing back old formats. Like there was a student like 5 years ago, he was making daguerreotypes.
Oh.
He was like, these are neat. I want to figure out how to make these. He luckily just found a way to make them without mercury, so that was excellent. So maybe they'll have their revival yet. What are the students like now? They're into Polaroids, little Polaroids. At least I might be a few years behind the time. But it was very popular at least a few years ago.
I got them.
Yeah, and photo booths. Yeah, they're little Polaroids and they come out and they can stick them on things. And sometimes they have other little ones. And I see them like in the back of their phone cases. They'll put their Polaroids in the back and then put the case over it. It's like a clear case and they can see them. And then photo booths are pretty popular. At least I think those might be on the decline. But like, so I think there still is a demand out there for print things. You need something to put in your frame or on your desk at work. You can't just have your phone up with your favorite photos. So.
Walmart, you go to Walmart with your phone and make pictures, yeah.
Yeah.
Cheap.
So I think the kids are all right. People. I don't know. There's a lot of like universal truths about people over time, and I think we do enjoy tangible things. So I do have some hope. Because I don't want to put all my eggs, in the Twitter and Facebook and MySpace and whatever comes after that.
I brought my key in, I didn't do it.
I saw some. Yeah, no, thanks for all the comments.